Welcome to Awkward Chats, where we take you on a hilarious journey behind the scenes of our travel adventures, and it can get a little awkward.
I'm Nacy.
And I'm Gary.
And together, we make up Lost Girl in Tomorrowland, our YouTube channel, where we go on fun adventures all across the U.S. But that wasn't enough. We wanted a place where we could talk about the real behind the scenes that goes into producing our channel.
Awkward Chats is your ticket to the real, unfiltered side of our travel adventures and a place where we can start your awkward conversations.
So buckle up and get ready for an adventure full of laughter, mishaps, and of course, awkward topics.
You can find new episodes every month, everywhere you get your podcast. This is Awkward Chats.
Welcome back to another episode of Awkward Quickies.
Yeah, and one thing we get a lot of questions about is our disability access systems videos because we use them a lot, and we've also have the interview on our Lost Girl in Tomorrowland channel, as well as some other videos sort of using it in park. And we get a lot of questions, so we want to answer sort of those 5 key things that we always get asked about.
Correct. So I think one of the biggest things to prepare yourself for DAS is to take the pressure off and just do it in advance. And you can do it up to, I believe, 5 days in advance of your park day online. So essentially you log on to the website, they have a quick chat, and then they give you a video call with a cast member. I don't know where they're at, probably Orlando or California. And they go through the same interview process that they go through in the park. And the benefit to that one is you can make what's called an advance reservation because there is no more free fast passes, which also helped with the disability access back in the day. So this is their way of kind of alleviating that for people who need to use the DAS. And you can pick 2 rides per day in advance, and they're at certain times. And those times aren't flexible, but you can pick them in advance, and there's only certain rides that you can pick from. But it does kind of help you plan your day so that way you can ride as many rides as possible, being flexible with your disability, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I think something too that you didn't mention there, one of the benefits of that is you don't have to do it in park.
Mm-hmm.
So another sort of key piece that you want to know is that if you don't get to do it in advance, and I think 30 days out is when they start doing them, so it's 30 days to 5 days out from your thing that you can do this interview online. If you miss that window, you can still do it in park, but you need to get there early because it will pack up because you're going to either Town Hall if you're at Disneyland or Disney World, and you can also go to Liberty Square. There's one right next to that
Hall of Presidents
area that you can also go to if the other one's busy. But the thing with the Town Hall is that it's busy because other people they're doing other things. There's tons of like ticket issues or other things like that take up the cast members' time. So if you need to do the interview, definitely recommend getting there early.
Yeah. And that's kind of number 4 is if you forget, you can still do it in the park.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we do both. It honestly just depends if I remember to do it before we go. Because sometimes we buy tickets last second. We're like, hey, we're feeling like hitting the park. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess we'll just do the DAS when we get there. We actually got pretty lucky the last time we went because I think we were right in our 90-day window to renew. So honestly, all I had to do was walk in there and just tell them I'm renewing.
Yep.
I think if it's been longer than a year, you have to start the whole process over again. You can't just walk in there and say, I would like to renew my DAS.
Yeah. And how long does the interview take?
I think from start to finish, probably no more than 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Online, it takes a little bit longer because they have to connect you to somebody and there's a chat.
That's gonna help.
But in the face-to-face interview at the park, I would say about 7 minutes from the time you get up to the front. And then the online, I would say probably set aside 30 minutes for the actual interview. But the queue to get to somebody could take you hours.
Yes, exactly. And you got to open that up, let it go. And I do recommend laptop because sometimes the phone disconnects if you do it through the app or on the phone. Sometimes you get a disconnect, whereas our laptop didn't seem to disconnect in both cases. And we have done it at both Disneyland and Disney World.
Yep. Number 3, I guess I would say make sure you have the app on your phone because both Disneyland and Disney World have updated their app so that you can book your DAS passes once it's been approved in the app itself. So you don't have to go to the ride. What used to be is you had to go to the ride back in the day. So you'd have to walk all the way to the back of the park if that was the ride you wanted to ride. get your return time, and then go do something, which I can understand why they had that program initially. And then they moved to the people in the blue shirts under the blue umbrellas, which were stationed at different points throughout parks, which helped alleviate that, but it didn't fully alleviate the problem because you still had to go hunt them down and wait in line. And now they have it in the app. So as long as you have the most up-to-date version, you should have the DAS feature at the bottom of Plan My Day in your My Disney Experience app, which is super helpful because literally after you scan for your DAS, after you get through the final scan, you can go in and book your next one, which is super helpful, very time saving. And a lot of times we can get more rides in that way versus having to go find somebody. Now, if the app isn't available to you, you can still do the blue shirts. You can still go to the ride itself and get a return time, but it's faster in the app.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a lot nicer too. Like if you're thinking like, oh, I want to ride Soarin' and you're at Disneyland, you've basically got to run there and then run back to wherever you were back in the day. At least with the app, you got that option.
And on a hot day, I will tell you, for the reasons why I have the DAS, obviously I'm a type 1 diabetic, heat, especially lately, the last several years, really messes with my blood sugar. So having to march to the back of the park in the middle of the heat of the summer, it's enough to make you feel sick to your stomach. So having the ability to just take it easy, sit at a restaurant and air conditioning, book my return time, and then get in line definitely keeps me from having medical emergencies. And I wear an insulin pump and a glucose monitor, so it's kind of crazy.
It's kind of crazy. I think the next big one is feel comfortable talking to the cast members, especially when you get to the rides. If you don't know where to go, whatever line they're going to put you in, whether you go through the fast pass line or whatever lightning lane or whatever they call it now, or if you go at the exit and go back up, there's a bunch of different approaches on different rides that you can go in, and just ask the cast member. They'll tell you which one's the best way to go, how to get there, and then typically they'll walk you to it too if there's a concern. So just don't be afraid to ask cast members. We get a lot of weird questions like, where do we go on this ride? Or where do we go on that ride? It's like, just ask the cast members. There's always at least 2 of them by the entrance with pads in their hand. You just got to flag one down, talk to them, and they'll tell you exactly where to go.
If you want a sample of what to say, you just let them know, hi, I have a return time.
And that's it.
And they'll be like, oh, proceed over here. Yep. Or they might actually be the person that scans you. Because I will say at Guardians, I've gone down the wrong way. And they're like, oh, no, go this way. I'm like, okay. And Tron, I've gone the wrong way too. So they will direct you. So it's usually just go to them and be like, hey, I have a return time. Because also, too, when you go into the lightning lane, don't be afraid because it will always glow blue when you first scan. Because the first person has to scan first who has the DAS, and it will blink blue and it'll go beep, beep, beep. And then they have to look at it, and then they're like, oh, okay. And they will just check it. I used to be a little self-conscious about that. And I'd be like, I have a return time. And they're like, yeah, you're fine. And then the people behind you will glow green as they scan in.
Yeah, so that's a bonus tip right there that we didn't really talk about. So when you get a DAS, whoever the person is that has the disability access services, whatever card, whatever you want to call it, access to that, has to scan in first, and they have to approve their thing. So if they're trying to push you and be like, oh, you can scan at multiple things, don't waste your time, because they have to scan that first person first, and they have to approve it. Now, once they do that, then you can all scan and go quickly. But until that person gets scanned in and they accept it on their little pad thing, all of yours will fail. So there's no reason to get another line. There's no reason to try to go quickly. It won't work.
Yeah.
But they'll push you because they're like, oh, faster, faster, faster. And it's like, I can do that, but I'm just going to stand here because it's not going to go until you approve her.
Yeah.
And what was the last tip? Deep thoughts.
I forgot. We talked about the app. What was the last tip?
I think the last tip was, so we dealt with pre-work, right? We dealt with getting into the parks and making sure you have the app, talking to the people in the blue. And then we talked about being comfortable talking to cast members. I think the 5th tip is really just sort of planning ahead. Because, again, the DAS Pass doesn't let you skip lines. A lot of people have that misconception online
Yeah.
that you're going to skip lines if you have the DAS pass. That's not how it works. You basically take whatever time it is in line that you're standing in, and they add it to the person who reserves the DAS thing. So you're going to have to wait 2 hours to go on that ride. You just don't have to physically stand in the line because you're unable to stand in a line.
And also, too, a thing to keep in mind, especially now that they have paid lightning lanes, is, and I have experienced this on like Rise and some of the other popular rides, is you can still wait another 20 to 45 minutes in the lightning lane line, depending on how busy that lightning lane is.
Yeah,
So
that's been a problem with the lightning lane. Disney Iger is selling those tickets now, and there's no cap on them.
yeah.
So he'll sell as many as he can, especially to the premium lightning lane rides. He will sell as many as he can. And then that becomes an issue for you because sometimes you can wait in that lightning lane ride, especially for like Rise and stuff like that, almost as long as you'd wait in the regular line.
Yeah, so we've had times where we've waited upwards of 45 minutes and it's like, it helped. Don't get me wrong, it helped. But at the same time, I'm also now standing in the line for a lot longer than I was hoping to. 15 minutes, cool, I'm fine. 20 minutes, I'm cool. I think once it goes past 25 minutes, at that point, I'm like, this is becoming an issue because there's a reason why I need to have a quicker access to the ride and not have access to like food and drink and all of that other stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I think
Keep that in mind.
keep that in mind. I think those are some big tips for the DAS. Those are a lot of the questions that we get a lot on the stream. And again, it is a free service and we're not attorneys, but just so you know, ADA law in this country does not require you to show any notice of specifically from a doctor saying why you need to use the service. So what Universal is doing seems to be, at least to us, illegal and against that thing. But Disney hasn't switched to that, and hopefully they don't.
Yeah, so we're going to be, when we get back to Orlando, we're going to explore the Universal version a little bit. I think it will be interesting. But yeah, I think I don't like it, but I'm gonna do it for the channel so that way people can better navigate that system and understand that system. Universal is actually more complicated, I think, than Disney in the sense of why I need it more at Universal than even Disney per se, because I have to completely disconnect my insulin pump if I want to go on a roller coaster, which being disconnected from my pump for longer than an hour it's not recommended. And then 2, I also have to put away my cell phone and my insulin pump together, and then I no longer get readings from my CGM. So I'm blind. So if I'm going high, I don't know. If I'm going low, my best indicator is how I feel, but a lot of times I don't feel that until I'm like critically low. And then with all of your stuff in a locker, you don't have access to sugar to get your blood sugar up if you're going low, and I don't have access to my pump if my blood sugar starts to go high. So trying to explain that, at least in the past, to cast members was so difficult. I can say cast members. I don't know what they're called at Universal, but I remember standing there trying to explain that to them, and they just kind of looked at me like, oh, we'll do it this time. I'm like, I don't think you understand. Like, I can't bring my shit in the line.
Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to hidden disabilities. Obviously, that's more difficult. Just so you know, right now, if you're in a wheelchair, that's not considered any type of disability because all of their lines are ADA accessible for wheelchairs. So they don't classify that as an exemption right now. I don't know if that'll change in the future. But when it comes to the invisible disabilities, they really fight hard, especially at Universal, because it's such a expensive ticket to get the Fast Pass stuff there.
Yeah.
And I hope that Disney doesn't follow along because, again, Disney is charging for the lightning lanes now. So
yeah. And the difference between Universal and Disney is that Disney can charge up to $250 for a day ticket without a park hopper.
Yep.
Universal, I think, is under the 200 mark still. I think it's somewhere in like 110 to 150.
Yeah.
Which isn't great, but
still overpriced, but it's better.
So yeah, so it'll be interesting exploring Universal and how things work at Universal. That'll be coming up on the channel in the next year as we make our way back to Orlando and start exploring some more. So yeah.
So the 5 big things, again, try to do that interview ahead of time. Know that it does take a little bit of time, but that is the way to do it.
And if you can't do it, do it in the park.
Get to the park early. That's the second one. The third one was definitely check out the blue cast members with the blue tents. They can be very helpful if you need help, if it's not working in the app. And then the fourth one was make sure you download that app because it can be very helpful and save you some serious time on those return areas.
And then just plan ahead.
Yeah,
Plan ahead for time.
And realize that it's not letting you skip the lines. You're just waiting in a different area.
So if you guys enjoyed hanging out with us this afternoon, we enjoyed hanging out with you.
Yeah, definitely subscribe to our podcast on whatever service you're listening to. And if you want detailed videos of the disability access system at Disney, check out our YouTube channel, Lost Girl in Tomorrowland.
Yeah, you can experience it all along with us. We've got Disney World and Disneyland.
Yep. And we even have the full interview.
Yeah. So we hope you guys enjoyed this, and we will come and get you guys next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.